Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she should have gone to college if she wanted a life like mine? Hello, everyone. Please excuse my grammar. English is my fourth language and 100% self taught. Also, this will be a long post. My sister and I are twins, 33, female. We come from a culture where arranged marriages are an option, not India. Mostly they're blind dates set by a matchmaker, and if you're compatible, you marry. When we both graduated high school, my sister, who was valedictorian by the way, chose not to attend college. She asked for an arranged marriage, since all she wanted to be was a wife and a mother. There's nothing wrong with that. My parents, who were a love match, tried to convince her at least to get a bachelor's, and she refused. I, on the other hand, started attending an engineering college, computer engineering. A year later, she married a man that she met through the matchmaker. He's a very nice man and a teacher, and treats my sister like a queen. The thing is, he was just a freshly hired teacher. My sister went from living in a double-income house with parents being both high earners, a doctor and a lawyer, to a single-income house on a teacher's salary. I graduated at 23 and started working as a cybersecurity personnel for a big bank. After 2 years of dating around, I too asked for an arranged marriage. My husband is a business owner, real estate developer, and he makes a lot more money than I do. He also comes from money. My sister didn't like him from the get-go. She even threw a tantrum, thankfully in private, in my wedding. Apparently the bride gifts he brought were tacky, more like very expensive, more than what your husband could get her. The problem is that my first child is now at the age where she will be starting preschool. We signed her up for a private school. The monthly tuition is more than what her husband makes. When she heard this, she exploded. She was ranting about how it's not fair that our kids will not have equal opportunities, how the only reason I could live like I do was that my parents chose a better husband for me. I became angry for how she treats me, how unfair she was to her husband and to my parents, so I laid the truth on her. I told her that I got matched with a better husband because I'm a college-educated woman with a respectable job, and the wealthy men using matchmaking services don't want 19-year-old high school graduates. Their standards are high. I told her that her husband is a wonderful man who loves her, but if all she wants was a wealthy man, she should have gone to college. Now she's not communicating with me. She says that I'm an elitist a-hole. So am I the jerk? You're not the jerk here. Your sister's insanely jealous of you, and it's quite sad to see because she should be happy that you're with someone that can make your life better and offer your children opportunities they deserve. While perhaps you are right that your degree certainly helped with the matchmaking, perhaps throwing that in her face was a bit much. But she needs to learn that her position in life currently is in her own hands to change. People get degrees even at the ripe age of 60 these days, and you're never too old to learn something new. Am I the jerk for not allowing my sister-in-law and her children into my house when my husband isn't home? My husband's older sister is a mom of 3, ages 9, 8, and 6. My sister-in-law allows a lot of behaviors that can be quite destructive and or messy from her kids, which is fine in her own house, but at least in mine, I don't like it. My husband has told her before that she needs to make it clear that our house rules are different from hers, but she brushes him off. These kids will kick a ball around inside, breaking our possessions more than once, will bounce on the furniture with shoes on and leave stains on them, have emptied storage containers in our house on the floor and walked away with what they wanted to get, leaving the rest there. My husband and I have both stepped in and asked them not to, and the response we get back is, "You're not our mom or dad." I'm aware this is true, but it's our home. We've put stuff up only for them to go inside and get it anyways. We said no shoes inside, and they straight up said no. They've also gotten other balls when we take them away while they play with them inside. They're the very same at my in-laws' house. The oldest even told my father-in-law to freak off when he corrected them. So I made the decision that if my husband wants to deal with all that, he can. But while I'm at home without him, they're not coming in. Sister-in-law attempted to come over with the kids while my husband was away for work. I told her she wasn't allowed in. I told her to speak to my husband and find out when he's home and she can visit if he allows. She was ticked. My husband told her he decided not to let her in anymore either, but I'm the worst offender in her eyes. Am I the jerk? Definitely not. Your sister-in-law needs to get her children under control and teach them some manners. To tell your father-in-law to freak off when he tried to correct them, that's a huge sign of a lack of respect for one's elders. And at least in my family, I would have been in a world of trouble if I had done that to my grandfather. I think you're doing the right thing here, putting your foot down and making it know that this kind of behavior is not acceptable and won't be accepted in your home. And your husband's a great guy for backing your decision over his sister's feelings. Am I the jerk for stopping the funding? 8 years ago, my wife left me after cheating was discovered. Despite having a 50-50 custody of our children, female 21 and male 19, they wanted to live with my ex, so I was okay with it as long as I could see them. I worked more and got a better income and covered all their expenses even after the youngest turned 18. I even paid towards college funds by myself, despite it being court ordered that both would pay equally towards it. In addition to paying tuition, I paid any other expenses: car, expensive clothing, electronics, holidays, etc. Even though after a while my daughter went to almost no contact, she sends me a text with the amount and where to send it, and I send the money. 2 weeks ago, my son turned up on my doorstep after I hadn't heard from him in 2 months. He told me that my daughter dropped out of college after a few months and that I have been funding their mother's and her new children's lifestyle all these years, as her affair partner left her after their third child. My daughter has been using me, as has my son, to help their mother and their own lifestyle. Upon finding this out, I stopped the money train. Turns out neither my ex nor my daughter work, and they've used my cash to fund their lifestyle. Now they can get evicted if I don't continue to pay. I'm not cutting out my son as he came clean. Am I the jerk for stopping the funds on my daughter and not my son? I don't think you're the jerk at all. Given your daughter is 21 and your son is 18, both of those children are at an age where they should be providing for themselves. Your money shouldn't be their sole source of income, and your ex-wife needs to get a job and get off her butt. To use you like that is kind of an a-hole thing to do and immoral in the long run. Good for your son for finally coming clean though, and hopefully things work out and you can start building back a relationship with him. Am I the jerk for telling my sister she raised her kids to be brats? I'm 23, female, and I live on my own. I'm single and never plan on getting married or having any children. My sister, Rose, is 29 and is married and has 2 children. Twins, Ava and Zoe. They're both 8. I'll be the first to say that her children are brats. They're nothing but spoiled and expect everyone to drop everything to help them. Rose and her husband James have no self-control, and when their children throw a tantrum, they'll immediately be given whatever it is that they want. To see 2 8-year-olds boss around their parents is nothing but sad and pathetic. Since they're the only kids in the family, everyone practically worships them, and never sees how bad they actually are. It was my birthday recently, and I invited everyone over to my apartment to celebrate. When planning it, I had mentioned that I was inviting a few of my friends too, and since there would be alcohol, I would feel more comfortable with it being a child-free event. Everyone agreed. Well, on the evening, she had to turn up late and with her kids. I told her to leave and come back when she found someone to look after them, but James and my parents both told me that I was being too serious and that it was a party for all of us to enjoy. They didn't even care that it was my birthday, or my apartment, or my rules. In the 30 minutes that Alva and Zoe were there, they smashed a plate, put their handprints all over my glass windows, burned themselves after opening the oven after explicitly being warned not to, and throwing a tantrum because I didn't have pretzels and refused to leave my own party to walk to the shop and buy some. The final straw was when they picked up a glass of wine someone left on the counter and took it into my bedroom, where they promptly spilled red wine all over my white sheets. I pulled James and Rose into my room and told them to get the heck out now before I made them pay for all the damages. Rose told me that they were kids and didn't mean to. I told her it was her fault for the way that her kids turned out, and that she'd raised them to be spoiled brats. She called me selfish before she grabbed her kids and they walked out. I haven't spoken to her or James since then, and while my parents think that she shouldn't have said that, they told me it's still my fault for not planning a party that accommodated for her children. I don't think that I should have to change my own lifestyle to support her own choices, and that I'm the one owed money for the damages and an apology. So am I the jerk? Your sister is being a gigantic jerk. To bring her kids, even after being explicitly told that this was an adult-only party, is not only extremely irresponsible of her, but also just flat-out rude. I think you're 100% in the right for telling her to get the heck out of your house, and honestly, she should have willingly offered to pay for the damages and cleaning charges that were due to her little brats being tiny devil children. Am I the jerk for not giving my son part of his trust fund early because he refused to sign a prenup with his fiancée? A little bit of background. I have 4 kids. My eldest, John, is 27, was with my first wife who died when he was 5. I eventually remarried and got 2 stepdaughters, Lissa, 25, and Anne, 18. Then my second wife and I had Mike, 13. My wife and I made sure to give them comfortable lives. When John and Lissa graduated from the university, we gifted them condo units. We will do the same when Anne and Mike graduate. Also, all of them have trust funds that will be released when they turn 30. I'm quite proud of my kids. John and Lissa graduated from top universities. John has a high-paying job as an engineer, while Lissa pursued a master's degree in business while she worked in marketing. Eventually, she started her own marketing consulting firm while being a part owner of a spa. John recently got engaged to his girlfriend of 2 years, and they want to get married by the end of this year. She seems nice, however, she doesn't earn as much as him. My son spends a lot of money on her, on dates and expensive gifts. I understand that it's his money and he can spend it however he wants. She also moved in with him into the condo that I gave him, and as far as I know, she doesn't pay her share of utilities and association fees. And now John is asking for part of his trust fund so he could use it for their wedding, since his fiancée doesn't have much money to contribute to their wedding. Now here's where I might be the jerk. I told him I'd release part of his trust fund early if he draws up a prenup with her. He got angry and told me I was being unfair because I released half of Lissa's trust fund last year to help put up her business. He told me that I was playing favorites. I told him that Lissa did something worthwhile with her trust fund, and while a wedding is worthwhile, I told him it doesn't seem safe to use his funds for a wedding to a girl who doesn't bring much to the table. I told him that I just wanted him to have some security by drawing up a prenup. He got angrier and said I was implying that his fiancée is a gold digger. My wife and the rest of the family refused to take sides. Am I the jerk? Not completely. While no, you're not being a jerk for wanting to ensure that your son is taken care of, and that his wife cannot take advantage of him and his money, perhaps you could have said it a bit more eloquently. It does kind of sound like you're implying that his wife is with him simply for his money. And it might not be that case. It's hard to discern things through text, of course. It just seems like it might have come off in the wrong way, how you're explaining it. I would say that it's his trust fund in the long run. If he wants to use that money for his wedding, he should be allowed. But on the flip side, I would urge him to get a prenup as well, just for his own safety in the long run. So in my eyes, no, you're not being the jerk, but maybe just a little. Am I the jerk for not contributing my wife's half to our kids' college savings account? I'm 39, male, and my wife is 38. Our daughter is 11, and our son is 9. My wife and I both work jobs where we make between 70 to 80K. She makes a few $1,000s more than I do. My wife's mom was not financially independent, so my wife is extremely scared of sharing finances. We have completely separate bank accounts. We charge shared expenses, groceries, kids' activities, etc., to our separate credit cards. And at the end of every week, we give each other the bill for half of the expenses we paid that week. It's a weird system, but it works for us. My wife and I also care deeply about not letting our kids go into debt for school. So every month, we contribute $100 to my daughter's college fund and $100 to my son's college fund. So each kid gets $200 total per month. Last weekend, we were both doing budgeting, and I asked my wife to send me the money that she owed for the kids' college funds. She said that she didn't have the money. She said that she'd made some big personal purchase this month, including new car tires, a name brand purse, and a fancy hairdryer. And she didn't have $200 to spare for the kids' college funds. So she said that she wouldn't contribute for the month of May. We got into a fight because I said that if she had money to spend on a purse, she had money to go towards our children's future, and she acknowledged that what she did was wrong. But here's the part where I might be a jerk. My wife said that it wasn't fair that our kids get stiffed because of something she did. So she suggested that I contribute her part to the kids' college fund. That would be $400 in total for me to spend. I told her absolutely not. I do have the money available, but I believe that paying her part would set a terrible precedent. If she wanted to be financially independent, I'm happy to do that, but it means that I won't cover her for when she wants to buy special treats for herself. I told her to find the money or our kids would get stiffed. My brother said that I was being the jerk to my kids and that I should just pay her part because my kids don't deserve to be punished for their parents' way of separating finances. Am I the jerk? I don't think that you're the jerk here, but I do kind of agree with your brother that your children aren't responsible for their parents' strange way of separating their finances. But on the other hand, your wife should have thought about your children's college funds before she went out and bought those things. While the tires and such were likely not something that could have been anticipated, she could have gone without a purse for a month. In the long run, the only people that are being hurt by this are your children. So if you feel that your wife needs to learn this lesson so vehemently, then so be it. But I personally would just bite the bullet and take one for the team. That way your children aren't being punished for your wife's irresponsibility. Am I the jerk for going against the family rule of no nicknames? If you ask me why we have that rule, I can't answer you. My parents never gave me a nickname while growing up. They never gave me an endearing way of saying my name, or called me son. I was always Sebastian. They also never called each other love or darling, anything, only by names. When I was 6, they told me I had to stop calling them mommy and daddy, and I had to call them mom and dad, or by their names. My parents had a surprise baby 6 years ago. My little brother, Pietro, I don't have the words to explain how much I love that child. I find him to be the prettiest baby in the world, and I try to show him love in any ways I know our parents never will. Since he's still a small child, they let me call him whatever I want, and said that I had to stop once he turned 6. Well, since his name is Pietro, I call him P. This started as Sweet Pea, First it was Pietro, Sweet Pea, then Pietro P, Sweet Pietro, until it landed on P. He actually loves it, even says his name is P. Pietro when introducing himself. I guess because it's the only real nickname in our family, once he turned 6, my dad said no more. But I said freak it, since I don't live at their place and continued to call my brother P. I only use his real name when I need him to get serious. My dad called a few days ago and said that P is refusing to come when they call to him, because he wants to be called P at home too. He says he likes it, and he doesn't understand why my parents refuse to call him something he loves. I talked to him because it was never my intention to get P to act out. He kinda got it, but he's a kid and got sad. Our mom ended up agreeing and calls him P now. I guess she's tired of that crap too, but not my dad. He completely refuses and blames me for causing this mess. He said that if I had stopped when they asked me to, P wouldn't be like this. But man, he's just a kid. Chill out. My mom says that for her the matter is settled, but I should talk to P again and explain to him how names are a big deal to our dad, and he should at least listen to him when he calls him Pietro. For my dad, I'm a complete a-hole, so I had to ask. Your dad is being a huge jerk about this. I get that it's a family thing, but in all honesty, it sounds like he's just being too strict for no apparent reason. And if your brother likes that nickname, he should be allowed to be called whatever he likes. Affectionate nicknames are there to be just that. Affectionate. Your dad needs to lighten up a little bit, but on the other hand, your brother also needs to understand that his dad is set in his ways, and it's probably never going to change. That nickname can be something between you, him, and your mother, and he should answer to his father when he calls him by his name. Am I the jerk for not wanting to name my daughter after my sister? My sister and I have never gotten along. Let's call her Jen. Jen was born a cleft lip, which she had surgery to correct, and has a lazy eye. Most likely, she will never be able to have children and some other minor health problems. My parents always baby her because of that. All throughout my life, I've been forgotten about. My parents forgot to come to my school plays or my basketball games, forgot to pick me up from them, have forgotten to get me gifts for my birthday, but they've gotten Jen stuff. Now, all of that I could live with because they're my parents' wrongdoings, but my sister enjoys it. She uses my parents' favoritism against me. For example, she had once cut a big chunk of my hair out because a guy she liked asked me out, which I declined. When I told my parents about it, all she had to do was cry, and they started feeling bad for her and forgot that she ever cut my hair. And on another occasion, I worked my butt off to convince my parents to allow me to have a pet dog when I was like 14. I got a lap dog and paid for him all by myself. My sister fell in love with him and convinced my parents to give him to her. Now I've become pregnant and am expecting to have a baby girl. My sister's become obsessed with the idea of becoming an aunt and started buying things for my daughter, texting me with instructions on how I should decorate her nursery, made a name list for her, which her top name ended up being her very own. She even bought a little onesie that says Mini Jen and told me that that's what I'm going to be naming my daughter. Of course I told her no way. I'm not naming my daughter after her, and I told her that if it wasn't the case of her being my sister, I would have already cut contact with her. She told me that since she allowed me to date her crush, it's only fair that she gets to pick the name of our first child, which I honestly find beyond ridiculous. She didn't even tell me that she liked the guy I was dating until I became engaged to him, and she also continuously commented on how ugly she thought he was, and even if that was the case, her logic still didn't make sense. I ended up getting a call from my parents, with them commenting on how selfish I am and that I know that my sister will likely never be able to have children of her own, and that I should just give her this one and that it hurt her feelings. So I gotta ask, am I the jerk for not allowing my sister to name my daughter after her? Not even close to being a jerk. Your sister is overstepping her bounds, and your parents are as well. None of them have any right to dictate what you name your baby, and just because she's your sister and she has health issues that complicate her ability to have children, doesn't give her some higher power to name your baby. I would have told her the same thing, and my parents as well. Am I the jerk demanding my husband pay back the money that he'd been secretly taking as rent from my disabled sister who's been living with us? My female 30, sister, female 23, is disabled. She can't work because of her immobility, but receives benefits, Social Security disability insurance, due to her disability. She used to live with our mom, who passed away 8 months ago. It's been hard for us. I took my sister in to live with me and my husband. Note that my husband doesn't take any part of her care whatsoever. Moreover, he's started complaining about my sister from time to time. She can't get her own place, and I would never, and I repeat, never, ever put her in a care home. I work and I take care of her, and it's been going well for us. My husband is the one who usually handles her financials because he's an accountant. I recently noticed that her benefit money wasn't enough to buy her essential stuff like medical equipment. I didn't think much of it until I decided to do the math and found hundreds going missing without an explanation. I talked to my sister and she kept implying that my husband had something to do with it, till she finally admitted that he'd been collecting rent money from her and told her to keep it a secret from me. I was floored, utterly shocked. I called him and had him come home for a confrontation. He first denied it, then said it was logical because my sister is an adult living under our roof, and so she's expected to pay rent. I screamed my head off on him, telling him how freaked up that was because she's disabled, and this money is supposed to go to her care, and more importantly, he should have never touched her money. I demanded he pay back all the money he took from her over the past months. He threw a fit, saying it's his house and he gets to say who stays for free and who has to pay. I told him he had to pay it all back, or police would have to get involved. He looked shocked at the mention of police and rushed out. He tried to talk me out of making him pay, but I gave him a set time and told him I'm serious. You are an amazing sister. One, for taking your sister in and taking care of her, but also, two, because you were willing to stand up to your own husband and put your foot down. Your husband is a gigantic a-hole, to put it simply. Any person that would knowingly take away money from a disabled person is trash, the worst of humanity. And to make your sister keep it a secret is even worse. It just shows that he knew what he was doing was wrong, but he did it anyways. I really hope he paid it all back and that you two have had a long conversation about him keeping his hands out of your sister's bank account. The audacity of this guy to think that was okay. I really have no words.